Hello everyone and welcome to round 7 of the Nebula rFactor Championship. We're here in Germany going around the Hockenheim ring for 34 laps. The soft and medium compound tyres will be used in today's race. Although last time out Kieran Chadwick took his first win of the season, so that might be a sign of things to come. Craig Baxter came second and Fred Bodden in third. Although currently Craig Baxter's leading the championship ahead of Fred Bodden and Sam Carpenter. I'll now hand you over for Justin, who'll give you the pole position lap of the German Grand Prix.
Here we are starting a lap of the Hockenheim ring in Germany with Craig Baxter. Very important to get a good run through the final two corners as they are essentially one double apex right-hander similar to turns 7 and 8 at Sepang. The infamous turn 1 is a high-speed right-hander and with a medium length run down to turn 2. Craig nails the apex nicely and avoids putting all four wheels off the circuit at the exit of the corner, which is easy to do with all that runoff area. Turn 2 is an even more important corner than turn 1 as you're setting yourself up for the longest flat-out section of the circuit on the run down to turn 6. Up through the gears as we approach top speed and go through Parabolica before preparing for what will undoubtedly be the most popular overtaking location at the turn 6 hairpin. Craig brakes very late for the corner around the 100 meter board but manages to get it all slowed down. He appears to run a bit deep at first but then takes a late apex for the straightest run through the exit as possible. Staying very clear of the curbing on the left, Craig gets a twitch of wheel spin as he accelerates towards the flat out turn 7. Braking once again around the 100 meter board and hitting the apex at turn 8 nicely. You have to be careful not to run too wide in order to open up the entrance for turns 9 and 10. Full throttle once again now for the run towards the very high speed turn 11. Craig uses all of the track at the entrance and flicks it in, taking just a smidge of the inside curb and avoiding the exit curb entirely. Feed the car back to the right side of the track now for the cambered corner at turn 12. Craig uses a double apex racing line for the best exit coming out of the corner, once again flicking the car left for turn 13, right for turn 14, breaking down once again for the final two corners now and again avoiding the curb entirely. Craig runs to the line for a 1:17.131 and pole position for the German Grand Prix.
On to qualifying classification then for the German Grand Prix. Craig Baxter takes pole position ahead of Fred Bodden, a Ferrari 1-2 lockout. They'll be pleased with that. Very good qualifying from both of those drivers. Sam Carpenter in third place. Respective qualifying for him, he'll be looking to make gains so he can get back into the championship fight alongside Kieran Chadwick. Juan Manuel Gomez in 5th, a really good starting position for him, and Scott Davison in 6th. He's becoming a really good qualifier and managing to get higher up in the grid in these races. Max Shepard in 7th, Callum Knighton a surprising 8th, he's usually higher in the grid, couldn't get a lap together in qualifying. Sesmir Bernatsky in P9, Evan Rice starting in the top 10, he'll be looking for points in today's race. Nick Bracke in 11th, also be looking for points. Patrick Young, who's reserving for the McLaren today, starting in P12. Gregris Tsakadouris in 13th, the last person to set a lap time in qualifying. Adam Bozita, no time set for him in the Manor, as well as Drinko Filipovic, no time set for him in the Sauber. A few reserve drivers driving today before the start of the race. It's race time here in Germany. The cars are filling into their grid positions they achieved in qualifying. It's the two Ferraris on the front row once again, and after a dominant showing throughout this season, they're going to be leading the way into turn 1. It's McLaren on the back row of the grid. They're in the middle of the Constructor Championship, trying to get up there. That won't help them. As we await, the 5 red lights are on now, and we are racing here in Germany. It's the two Ferraris as they lead towards turn 1. Max Shepard getting bogged down in the outside. Chadwick for a move on Carpenter, and Baxter holding around the outside of Bodden as they go through towards turn 2. It's Chadwick though on the back of Carpenter, and Carpenter going around the outside of Bodden into turn 2. They almost make contact on the apex as Carpenter got the inside line for the next corner, and Gomez off into the grass. He's going to lose a few positions as well. Knighton's had a decent start as well, gaining a few positions as well as Davison. Is Carpenter close enough to make a move though on Bodden into the hairpin? Not quite. Is Chadwick though going to go for a dive on him, locking up his brakes into the hairpin? It's been quite a chaotic start, but not many positions changed at the start of this race.
Yeah, not many positions changed there. It was a vital overtaking spot of the hairpin, but you saw Baxter getting ahead and staying ahead of Bodden, which was absolutely vital for his race. But there's a battle between Gomez and Shepard here, as I think Gomez is going to get a nice cut back out of the corner. He's going to have a lot better drive out the corner. He's going to go round the outside of Shepard, and he keeps his position of 7th. So good battle between the top runners as well as the midfield. We're having battles throughout the entire field at the moment.
Yeah, we are. Shepherd, though, got a drive-through penalty, I believe, for jumping the start. You seen him having a few issues moving backwards and forwards. I'm unsure of what happened. It looked quite weird. But Baxter, though, leading on to lap 2, and Bodden, you can see he's actually lost quite a bit of time. That dirt air in the last sector is going to prove really, really difficult for the cars to get close and make an overtaking move. But unlike Silverstone, we have a long straight here that will allow the cars to get in slipstream and get pulled. But Carpenter, is he close enough to make a move on Bodden? Not quite as they approach turn 2.
Yeah, I think he's just close enough to really pick up the slipstream, but Baxter's already starting to get a lead. Is that a Red Bull and the Sauber actually collided there? Did he just lock up into the Sauber? I'm not quite sure there. We might see a replay, but Sam Carpenter might be making a move into the hairpin now. If we see a move there, looking back at Bodden's car, they're very close at the moment as you see Carpenter get a little bit of squirm in the throttle, but there's contact between the Red Bull and the Sauber. Did you see what happened there?
It just looked like the Red Bull of Grigas Tsakadorius actually missed his braking point and just went pile driving straight into the back of the Sauber. Hopefully not a lot of damage for either of the two drivers, just a misjudgment really, and in qualifying your braking point's obviously a lot later and you can't push it as hard in the race, and the drivers are just trying to find the limit of where they can gain the most time here in this race.
Yeah, well, these drivers really don't want to push the limit too much, otherwise they're going to make mistakes. They're going to take a bit too much out of their tyres if they do make mistakes. So I think at this point they just need to be consistent at this point in time and just not make too many mistakes. If they make mistakes, of course, at this higher level, then they're going to go off. So.
Yeah, this track is definitely difficult for the drivers. You can see Evan Rice on the back of Nick Bracke, that is in P12. So he's lost a few positions off the start, and at this moment in time, do you think it's best for him to just stay calm, stay collective, or do you think he should push to try and get past and into the points?
I think he should just stay put. If he's in a very clear position to overtake, I think he should take it. But if he's maybe hesitant about an overtake, then I think he should just stick back and wait for people in front to make a mistake. As you see, Carpenter in there into the hairpin, just making a mistake, just locking up, and I think he just missed his braking zone trying to outbrake Fred. But trying to outbrake Fred around this track is proving a very, very hard task for these drivers.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of Bodden's strong points of his driving. As we've seen in Austria, just how much time he was able to gain on drivers under braking when he was making those overtaking moves. We're on board with Patrick Young, though. He's gained a position off the start, I think, or I believe he's actually in the same position as what he started. So just it's a decent start for him. He's just keeping it calm and collective, and you can see Rice hounding down the back of, I think that's actual Tzakadorius there, or is that, no, that's Rice actually that's made the move on Davison. I think Davison's not had a great start to this race as he goes for a move and makes it stick round the outside. What a surprising move there. That's not something you usually see around this track.
But the Red Bull got a really bad run out of that fast right-hander, and he just got really bad traction out there. I think he got like a tank slapper on the exit there. As you see, Toro Rosso, is that Rice off the track? Or is it Davison?
I believe that's Davison. So the person before making the overtaking move was actually Rice. So that was an impressive move from him. As we go on board with Bernatsky, though, looking back to Nick Bracke, who's currently in P8. Decent start from him. Bernatsky, he's had a solid season so far. Some decent results in Bahrain and Silverstone as well. He made a mistake, so this race he really wants to keep it steady and he really wants to get some decent points on the board for Mana.
Yeah, he's definitely a solid midfielder at the moment. He's not up there in terms of the top pace, but he's very consistent. He's been in the back end of the top 10 almost every race so far, I think since round 2 or 3. So he's been one of those very consistent drivers, just picking up small points, but basically having a very quiet race. And yeah, he's doing extremely well for himself.
Yeah, Baxter leading on to the lap 5 then for this race. You can see Bodden has just fell back a little bit. I think he's maybe conserving tyres, getting out of that dirt air. But on the other hand, Knighton is hounding down Chadwick. He's really putting in some decent sectors here, getting really close. But you can see he's lost a bit of time in that final sector. Is he close enough to make a move as we approach turn 2? Both drivers run wide and he almost loses the car on the exit. That's one thing. You can't really extend turn 1 because you're going to lose a heap amount of time as Chadwick locks up into turn 2. Is Knighton close enough though with slipstream towards the hairpin? I don't quite think he is. He's going to get pulled along. You'll see his top speed reaching over 200 miles an hour as we come towards this hairpin, but just not close enough, as we said, to make a move here.
Yeah, he's just not close enough to outbrake Chadwick. They were similar sort of ability, but the slipstream isn't as powerful. As he gets a big tank slapper on the exit there, the slipstream just isn't as powerful as people really think it is. We've not got DRS in this series, and so it's basically only reliant on slipstream. But you see the Williams of Shepherd going down the inside of Young there, and it's 4 cars battling out here as they head into the stadium section. Shepherd's got past the Sauber, he's going up the inside of the Red Bull as well, so he's passed 2 cars, and that's McLaren into the wall, and I think he's out of the race.
That's Young off, he's got damage as well.
Yeah, he's out of the race, his front wing's gone, and I think his engine's still running, so it's actually surprising his engine didn't cut out, but it's a big accident there heading straight into that barrier.
That was a pretty big one, and we get a replay of Rice. He was in P14 at the time, and I think he's had a big shunt as well, and he's went massively flying into the wall. Then I think his engine's probably cut out after that. That was a hefty shunt. Yeah. Massive shunt for him, and yep, you're definitely right. His engine is cut out. That's a shame for him. He started P10, and now he's going to have a DNF for this race.
Yeah, so it's 2 DNFs already, 2 big accidents there, and it just shows if you push too hard on this track, it will bite you back, and you will go into a wall, especially if you run off at turn 1 there. The outside of the circuit isn't too forgiving. If you run off there, it isn't really flat. It will probably kill your car if you try to run off there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me, but you've seen Chadwick lock up a lot. I think he may be having issues with the brakes, or maybe there's something else going on, but he really seems to be struggling. We'll see into this next corner as well. Yeah, look at just how much he's locking up that tyre. That's not going to help the tyre life at all, because now after the update with the tyres, they do actually respond to driver input. They really do have temperature. The temperature is simulated really, really well. And now as Knighton just seems to keep closing and closing down lap by lap, it just seems like a matter of time before he's able to make an overtaking move.
Do you think that's because Chadwick's under pressure, or is he just making mistakes? As you see, Knighton's going a bit white there, but yeah, do you think Chadwick's just feeling too much pressure at the moment?
Well, Knighton definitely is putting him under pressure. You can see as they go towards turn 1, he's much closer than he was last lap. Is he going to be able to get close enough to make a move as Chadwick runs wide? That might allow Knighton a move into turn 2. He's definitely got the slipstream here. He'll definitely have a chance at a move towards the hairpin. If not, and yeah, he's definitely close enough. So this is going to be interesting to see who's going to come out on top towards this hairpin.
Yeah, I think Knighton got a better line to that little kink in the straight there, but on board with Baxter, I think he's lapping McLaren. Is that the crashed out McLaren, or is it another one?
Yeah, you're right, that's the McLaren of Young, so he's still running in this race surprisingly after that massive shunt, but I don't think he will be for much longer. There's definitely going to be severe damage to that car.
Yeah, you see Bodden going wide there, and I think he actually went off track. He just locked up his brakes and just pushing too hard into that stadium section, and I think Baxter's already starting to extend the lead out front here.
Yeah, this is what we've seen every time he's led a race. He just seems to extend the gap, keep it really comfortable in front, not making any major mistakes, and that just doesn't allow any driver behind to really close up unless they're actually faster. So we've seen it many times before. We've seen it in Austria, done the exact same thing. But will Bodden have a response to this? Because now Carpenter's coming onto the back of Bodden. Carpenter seems to be lapping just as fast as Baxter at the moment, so Carpenter may actually have a chance to win this race, as he hasn't put any good results in the past few races.
Yeah, definitely. I think he'll definitely be looking towards Bodden in the next few laps, but it just depends if he gets close enough onto this dirty air, and because the slipstream isn't that effective around here. On board with Bracky here, as he's sitting in 8th position. He's a little bit further back from, I'm not sure who that is, I believe it's a Manor. Is that Sesmir?
Yeah, you're right, that's Sesmir Bernatsky, currently running in P7, so he's doing well. As you see Bracky getting loose, and I think that's the McLaren of Young off the side, so he's definitely going to be DNFing from this race. Unfortunate accident for him, just making a slight mistake, and as Max said before, one small mistake on this track and it could hurt your race entirely.
Yeah, I think the McLaren, he was just going to that little right kink before the stadium section. I'm not sure how he lost it there. He might have just had a little bit of oversteer and then overreacted. I'm not quite sure. We didn't see a good replay of it, but it was a very strange accident, very strange place to lose the car there.
Yeah, definitely, but you got to remember he does have a lot of damage on that car after that shunt. It was a really high-speed crash, and it's definitely going to have affected his aerodynamic downforce of that car. The performance of the car probably would have been all over the place, really difficult to handle because the cars are really sensitive to damage, especially really high speed crash damage, so he was going to be struggling for the rest of the race if he continued, so maybe better for him to just retire now and save the despair of going on for another 33 laps as Knighton locks up into turn 2, getting on the curb. And that's another thing drivers need to watch out for. When they touch the curbs and you hit the brakes, your wheels will lock up because you've got absolutely no grip there under braking. Is Nick Brackey the first one to bite and make the first pit stop?
Do you think he's going for the undercut?
Yeah, I think so.
He
Yeah,
pitting very well, it's not very early. It's probably 2 or 3 laps before the usual pitting time. But yeah, I think he's just pitting early. He might have taken too much of his tyres out, but I don't think he was battling on track too much.
Remember, he was chasing Sesmere, so as you said, that's probably going for the undercut. So do you think that's a sensible move? Because he's going to be forced into a 2-stop, definitely. Most drivers will be here, but it still seems a bit early.
I don't think the tyre wear is really heavy enough to really have an effect, like too big of an effect. I think that's race leader Baxter heading into pits. I don't think the undercut's really going to be effective on this track because the tyre wear isn't as big as other tracks that we've had in the calendar so far. So yeah, we'll see how it works, but to me, I don't think it will work because you see, I think that's Mercedes into the pits.
That's Knighton into the pits as well, so maybe in fact it is the right chance to pit now. Maybe the wear is higher than expected because that's most of the drivers that are in a comfortable position pitted. Knighton, though, he was on the back of Chadwick. We'll be able to see if he ends out in front of him because remember, he was really close coming into the pits, so he's definitely went for the undercut. Baxter, though, leading the race, you would think he would make Bodden try and blink first to come into the pits, but obviously he's got the lead decision. He's the person in front in Ferrari, so you've got to expect Bodden to come in this lap.
Yeah, definitely. Bodden's going to have to react to Baxter pitting, and I think it would be foolish to really stay out unless he tried a different strategy to Baxter, which would be interesting. Do you think, I don't think a 1-stop's possible, but just extending the stints could possibly work later in the race?
It could possibly work, but you've got to remember the soft compound tyres, they really do seem to perform badly when they're worn down a lot, because you see, yeah, that's Bodden, the race leader at the moment, into the pits, and that's Carpenter as well. So most drivers making the decision to pit now. Well, Chadwick in P3, I don't think he is, so Chadwick's going to go and lead the race. And as you said about the 1-stop, I wonder if Chadwick's going to be the one to try that here.
He could be. He's tried some alternate strategies before in some other races, and it'll be interesting to see different strategies here. I think the leaders are probably going to be doing 2 stops. Kieran, if he stays out, could be trying a 1-stop, which it'll be interesting to see if it works. I'm not sure if it will work, because we've heard that if you take the tyres too long, the tyres may actually explode, like in Silverstone 2013. But we've not seen that yet in this mod, so it'll be interesting to see if that actually happens.
Yeah, not commentators cursed or anything, but that would be a shame to see happen. It'll be interesting to see how fast, though, the 2 Ferrari drivers will be able to close down and to see if they'll be able to overtake on track. Because they're on the, you see Chadwick there anyway, still locking up, he's still struggling, so he's definitely not going to be the best driver on track for wears, and he's going to go for the 1-stop, so it may be possible, it may not. We're just going to have to wait and see. Chadwick, though, leading this race on lap 11. He won last time out in Silverstone, and maybe he's got a strategy up his arm that's going to win him this race.
Yeah, it could be. If anything's going to win them the race, it's going to be strategy. I don't think he's really got the pace of the Ferraris, and maybe Carpenter as well, but strategy could well give him some really good points here. Yeah,
it definitely could. Though the Ferraris look really strong. They're actually increasing their gap to Carpenter behind. He seems to be struggling now on this medium compound tyre. Bodden, though, I don't know if that's just me, but it looks like he's closing down on Baxter, so maybe we'll get a battle between those 2 drivers.
Yeah, he's definitely closed the gap. You can see under braking is Baxter. Yeah, he's in second at the moment, obviously, because Kieran's leading, but that gap is visibly smaller than we've previously seen it. I don't think Bodden's quite got slipstream, but before, I think the gap was about 2-3 seconds. Now it's maybe 1.5 seconds, and you can see the gap. Look how much it comes down under braking. It just highlights how good Bodden is under braking.
Yeah, definitely, although you need to remember different drivers have different lines into that hairpin. you've got two very distinct lines, just like you did in Lovefield and Silverstone. Some drivers like to run deep and then take the V to get the best run out towards the Mercedes grandstand, and some drivers like to take it more narrow and get just a quicker apex, a quicker all-round speed. It works differently for drivers. Some drivers prefer differing lines, but you can see Bodden is closing down. He is definitely pushing as he locks up his front brake there, and yeah, you definitely see if you get this really nice shot of the front of the car, you can see him just struggling in this turbulent air as they go on to start lap 13.
Yeah, dirt air is definitely having a big effect on Bodden at the moment. You'll see it through turn 1 here. It's not too bad there, but we have seen drivers actually drifting wide just because of the dirt air. If you follow the car in front too closely, you tend to drift wide, and you can just see how much Bodden closes under braking. It's pretty awesome to see as they head onto the straight, and I think the gap is even smaller this lap round. It's probably about 5/10, maybe. I'm not quite sure in the gap from that cam, but I think Knighton's actually close up to the back of Carpenter. Carpenter seems to be really struggling on this new set of tyres.
Yeah, definitely, and Chadwick's in the first sector, he's actually went 1.2 seconds slower than the two Ferraris, so it seems like that strategy for him may not be working out as Knighton gets ever so close to the diffuser of that Williams, and he's definitely lapping faster than him at the moment. Will he be able to make an overtaking move this lap? I don't quite know, because he does seem to be gaining a lot, just like Bodden is on Baxter. So we've got two battles forming here, one for position, with the final position on the podium, and one for the race lead, so we might actually be in for a treat of a race this time.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what Kieran does. He's definitely going for the one stop at this point. I don't see why you try and do a two-stop considering how much time.
Chadwick's down into P3. Sorry to interrupt. Chadwick's down into P3. I think he's got a puncture.
Has he got a front left puncture? Is that what I see?
I think he has. You see the smoke coming off the tyre. We might get a replay of that, but I think you may have actually commentator cursed Chadwick. He's into the pits now, and he's lost all of that time that he gained. He's now over a pit stop behind those guys up front, so that's definitely a bad move from him.
We'll need to see a replay of his tyre exploding, but you can see Knighton's close right up to the gearbox of Carpenter as they head into the straight. At this point, the slipstream's going to have a huge effect on this battle, as we see Knighton following Carpenter down the long straight. Now he's going to pull out to the right, and he's going to make a move down into the hairpin here. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers as Knighton breaks down the inside? Will he make the corner? He's gone a little bit wide, and Carpenter's got the switchback, and he's actually maintained the position, but these two are already starting to battle, and it's only lap 14 in this race.
Yeah, definitely. As we said before, it looks like he's gaining a lot of time on him, and now we get a replay of what happened to Chadwick. So in P1, and he goes to turn right, and I think the tyre just seemed to explode mid-corner. He went to turn in, and it just didn't turn in the next few corners.
It just gave up. Like, as you see, his car just goes, he almost goes off the circuit there, but you can see he gets overtaken on track by the Ferraris, and they must have closed maybe a few seconds just in that one time he went off track, because he was already going really, really slowly, and his tyre exploding obviously didn't help his pace, and you can see the Ferraris, they're into 1-2 position right now. And it'll be interesting to see if that one-stop strategy worked. Will the Primes, will they go 19 laps?
I don't quite think so.
Especially if the options only went maybe 14 laps before exploding.
Or maybe they will, because, well, that's obviously what Chadwick's going for.
Possibly, but you see in the Ferraris battling now, Baxter heading up the inside, and I think Bond's going to head around the outside. I think he's just about made it work as they go wheel to wheel. I think there's a slight bit of contact between the two drivers there. I think Baxter's just about got a wheel and says, right, King, can they just about avoid contact? As Baxter goes down the inside, will he outbrake Bond as they almost have contact, but Baxter manages to keep the position, but these two are already battling just as Carpenter and Knighton are battling behind, so it's a pretty good battle already on track.
Yeah, definitely. See, Baxter ever so late on the brakes. That's something we didn't see so far. Bodden was actually the best on the brakes, it seemed earlier, but managed to pull off that outbraking manoeuvre. Surprising that Bodden didn't go to the inside to defend. But Carpenter, though, now in P4, it looks like he's catching on to the back of Knighton. So these two drivers might actually be similar in pace, but they just seem to be battling each other, and it's slowing them down. So Baxter and Bodden, they'll be basically free to battle up the front as well, and both of the drivers, they won't be losing any time as we get a replay of the move on Knighton pulled on Carpenter into the hairpin. He went to the inside, Knighton really good on the brakes, just managed to hold the position, but then Carpenter getting the better exit and just launching himself up the inside and in towards the next corner. Though, did Knighton get the move done around here at the Mercedes Grandstand? We'll be able to see. Yes, he did. That's an incredible move actually on the brakes. That's really impressive from Knighton.
Yeah, Carpenter I think he just got a little bit of a tank slapper heading through that little right kink. The kink where I think Patrick Young actually had his accident, but looking back from Knighton's car, Carpenter's actually closing down a lot, and will he make a move into this hairpin? Not quite. I think he's just sizing up his opportunities. He's going to try and get a better run out of here. There's another overtaking spot just 2 corners away, and I think Carpenter might still be close enough to make this move. I think he is. He's going to think about going down the inside, but he goes to the outside again, and he tries to outbrake Knighton, but Knighton just closes the door on the exit. And it was a pretty opportunistic move there by Carpenter. I'm not quite sure it worked, but Knighton got a bit of a tank slap in the exit there. So, yeah, it's still a great battle between these 2 drivers.
These 2 drivers going hammer and tong right now, absolutely pushing the cars to the limit. You can see both of them continuously locking up. It's not going to be doing well for the tyre wear. They'll probably definitely have to make another stop now, as most drivers will be. Carpenter though locking up this time as he's getting close through this last sector. I don't think turn 1's really an overtaking place. Well, an overtaking move can be done there because it's just too tight of a corner and you'll just run wide and you'll just lose time.
Yeah, basically the dirty air is just too bad at turn 1 to really make it an overtaking corner. But heading down into the straight now, there's a little left kink. The kinks on this track are kind of difficult to go through if you're sitting behind something so closely. But on board with Bodden here, heading to the hairpin, and they almost have contact because I think Baxter just got a little bit wide and then just turned in too late because he missed his braking zone slightly.
Yeah, that might actually just be what I was mentioning earlier, the 2 drivers having differing lines as Knighton gets hard on the power and loses traction on the curb and the outside. Is Carpenter close enough to make a move this time? He's going to go to the outside. Is he going to be able to late brake? No. But Knighton ran deep and that's allowed Carpenter try and go for a move round the outside. Just not able to there, but he's going to go for the undercut as they go towards this fast right-hander. It's going to be interesting to see who'll come out on top. Carpenter leading the way into the corner, Knighton holding it round the outside. These 2 drivers are still side by side as they approach this left-hander. Knighton outbraking himself as Carpenter able to get back up the inside. They're side by side still into the final sector of this race, and they're side by side still as they approach the last corner of this lap, and Knighton edges out ahead this time. These 2 drivers are battling so hard, they're actually ruining their races at the moment, but Carpenter doesn't care and he just wants past.
Yeah, dirty air is just having too much of an effect on this battle to really allow any driver to pass. You saw the effect of differing lines that each driver took, and I think Knighton's actually got a really, really bad exit onto the straight now, and I think Carpenter's actually going to be able to close up once again. I think that's just going to be a repeat of the previous battle we've seen. Carpenter now closing up under slipstream. He's going to go to the left-hand side, the outside of Knighton. Who's going to break latest? I think they just about had contact there. I think Knighton had locked up fully, and he just headed to that corner and almost drove Carpenter right off the road as he now head through the little right kink into the stadium section. Carpenter had to lift off a little bit there to avoid hitting Knighton, and these drivers are making a lot of mistakes, but still staying close with each other.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how far ahead they've managed to pull the gap. The Ferraris and these 2 drivers, they've managed to pull enough gap so they're still battling and they're still able to keep the gap to 5th place behind. I think it's currently Chadwick. So Chadwick, after making the mistake in the pit stop, still running in P5 at the moment. Not great for him, but at least he's still running in a respective position. Hopefully he'll be able to catch up at the end and we might get a 3-way battle for the final position on the podium.
Do you think the I know we talked about this earlier, but I'm not sure if the 1 stop at this point in time, considering the amount of time he's lost, will really work at this stage, unless he has a massive amount of pace in the last few laps. But do you think it's still going to work?
Probably not.
I'm not sure what his planned lap to really pit was.
He's got to have reverted to his 2 stop, surely. But Knighton though, the rear wing of his car, you can see Carpenter on the outside into the hairpin. Will he be able to make this overtaking move stick for once? They go both of them side by side into the hairpin. Knighton with the shallower line, but Carpenter's going to come with the comeback as he gets better traction out this corner. He'll be leading towards this right kink into the Mercedes Grandstand section, and he does lead, but Knighton has the inside line. ever so late on the brakes and still manages to hold the position. Carpenter though is going to try and go for the outside. Both drivers getting a tank of oversteer, and Carpenter's going to go for the undercut once again. He actually looks as if he's ahead this time. So into this right-hander, Carpenter leads now. P3, well, not leading, P3 for him. Is Knighton going to be able to come back home though? Into this corner, it looks like he does. Carpenter runs wide, locks up, and Knighton through. So Carpenter, after doing all that work, is now back down into P4, and he runs wide and loses more time.
Yeah, it's just a little mistake like that really cost him position. He was actually ahead for maybe 2 or 3 turns, and then he just made that lockup, and it just cost him position. But I think this battle is definitely going to be going back and forward between these two drivers for probably the next few laps until the next pit. Next pit stop is probably going to be the next 4 or 5 laps, do you think?
Yeah, roughly 23, 24, because 10 or 9 laps on the options is what we've seen at the beginning, so that's probably the projected pit stops as Bodden gets ever so close to Baxter once again, but losing the car on traction, and that's all the time that he gained on the previous few laps gone in a matter of seconds. As Knighton though still in P3, Carpenter still really close behind. These two drivers just can't seem to get rid of one another. Is Carpenter close enough on the back of Knighton here to make a move into this left-hander? Under braking, Carpenter's going to try and go around the outside, but no, thinks different of it and goes for the undercut. Is he going to try the same as what he did last time? No, he's going to try and hang it around the outside. Knighton has the racing line though, and Knighton will be able to hold this position into the right-hander, and yes, he does. We get another amazing shot of the front of the car, and it just seems like Carpenter just, it doesn't matter what he does, he just can't find his way past Knighton because he just comes streaming back through.
Yeah, he just keeps on going down or around the outside of Knighton, just trying to get that cutback into the or out of the stadium section and into that right-hander. But every time he tries that, Knighton is always there and always there to take the position back. And you saw previously Carpenter, he got past and they made a mistake into that little sort of, I can't remember what corner name it is, but a little loop right at the end of the third sector, and just cost him his position. So yeah, I think if Carpenter's going to make the move, he needs to make the move and hold the position. Otherwise, he's just not. He's not going to finish in front of Knighton.
Do you think if he can lead into that final sector and not make the same mistake as in locking up, he'll be able to stay ahead? Because surely he'll be able to gain the time that to gain a big enough gap so that he can keep him behind to the dirty in the final sector. And as we say that, Carpenter looks as if he's close enough again to make a move. Is he going to dive it down the inside? No, thinks better of it. Surprising there. I thought Carpenter would have went for that move as Knighton runs deep, but Carpenter, it seems as if he's holding back now. He doesn't seem like he's pushing as hard, so maybe he's conserving his tyre and is going to go for the overcut, but it definitely doesn't look like he's pushing right now.
Yeah, he just tried the same move almost like every lap, and it didn't work. So if I was him, I'd probably try something different, maybe diving down the inside, see if that worked, because there's nothing to really lose. You're sitting behind Knighton at the moment. There's nothing to really lose in experimenting with different overtakes and different moves like that. And every time he tried to get past, he tried the cutback. Yeah, it did work, but then he made mistakes because he was just getting pressurized too hard. But looking at the two leaders here, they're still very close after 22 laps. It just shows the similarities in pace. Baxter is leading Bodden by maybe half a second, probably less than that actually. And I think Bodden's definitely keeping him under pressure at this point in time.
Who do you think is going to be the first person to pit out of these two drivers, considering Baxter was the first person in the pits in the first stint?
I think it'll be Baxter. He'll get first call on pits. It's usually the first call on or first person on track that gets the first call in the pits, and at the moment that's Baxter. So it'll probably be him unless he decides, no, I'll pit second, you can pit first, which would be strange because you don't want that undercut to work. Usually it's the undercut that works instead of the overcut. So I think Baxter will pit first, but maybe different.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Baxter will be the first person to come in. Would expect them in the next couple of laps, definitely, because you can see they're definitely losing time. And Chadwick, I think he's definitely going to have to be forced to do another pit stop because his lap times are starting to drop off as well, even though he's on the prime tyre. There's no way he can go another 11 laps without the tyres exploding like they did in the first stint. We get a replay though of Knighton. He was in P3 and I think Carpenter just streaming down the inside, making that move stick. That was basically what you said. He just had to stick it down the inside. He seemed to listen to you and that's what he done. But Knighton going to go for a move back onto the Mercedes grandstand, and he went for the move down the inside, locked up and just ran deep, which will allow Carpenter yet streaming back through as he gets oversteer on the exit, and that's Carpenter leading those two and up into P3 then, so exactly what he needed to do. He'll be able to push on if he can keep Knighton behind him, that is.
Yeah, Carpenter just tried something different there, and it worked obviously, but I actually thought he was going to lose position there by keeping the inside open. He just left the inside right open to Knighton, and Knighton just took the opportunity to take the pass. It's a shame he didn't actually make the corner, otherwise we would have had probably another continuation of the battle, but I think that's a lap sober there, as you see the third and fourth people pass them. But yeah, Carpenter just tried something different, it worked, and he's got that position. Now he needs to just keep the position, and I think if he... They're very similar in pace at the moment. I think if he just makes no mistakes, he'll keep the position until the end. There's only 11 laps left, so yeah, not many laps left in this race for many positions to change.
Yeah, definitely not, but we've still got these two Ferraris battling really, really close, separated by half a second again, and we're on to lap 24. We've got to expect the second round of pit stops to come in round about this lap. Is Baxter leading the way in this Grand Prix? He's done ever so well so far, just managing the pace out front. You can see Bodden though, almost hitting into the back of him. That was ever so close. In Bodden, you've seen him getting loose on the power, so he's definitely pushing, trying to close up, and it seems like Baxter's tyres have fallen off the cliff as we've got a battle forming for P5 on the grid. That's Cespear Bernatsky actually in P5 and Chadwick in P6, so there's been a move on track somewhere for that position, and that's Juan Manuel Gomez behind him, and I think that's Max Shepard actually in P8. So after having 2 drive-through penalties so far, Shepard's still in 8th position and got a chance to get P5 maybe if he ups his pace a little.
Yeah, possibly, but Cespear's actually having a great race here in 5th position, running probably over some of the top runners. I definitely categorise Chadwick as a top runner, but Cespear getting a very bad exit out of that corner there, and I think it's going to be a slam dunk for Chadwick to get past here, as Chadwick pitted onto softs, I believe.
Chadwick's still on his mediums, I think, as he goes for the late-breaking move, and both of them almost spin. That's contact with Gomez and Cespear, and I think that's going to be damage for both of those drivers. As I think that's Gomez going to take the position, so Cespear into corners once again. The commentators curse you, saying he's having a great race, and now he's down into P7. I think you should stop with that.
Yeah, I think we should just stay quiet from now on in the race. But yeah, heavy contact there, the hairpin. You saw Kieran going down the inside, slamming on the brakes, and he just about made the corner. It was almost like 1980s F1 style, where he just drifted into the corner. I'm not sure what happened behind, but they just seemed to get surprised at Chadwick sliding, and then...
I think he spun in sympathy. There was two... They both basically... Well, they both went sideways simultaneously.
And it was unlucky for, I think it was Gomez. He went right into the side of, I believe it was Cespear. So, yeah, and I believe Bodden's actually taking the lead of the race.
Yeah, Bodden's taking the lead of the race because Baxter actually went in and made his pit stop. So, as we expected, Baxter the first one into the pits. Bodden really pushing hard on this outlap, but I don't quite think he'll be able to get the overcut. I don't quite think that'll work around this track. The tyres definitely performing not as well as expected, as most drivers, or almost everyone, forced into doing the two-stop here.
Yeah, and obviously I think they're going to be definitely going onto the soft tyre with only 9 laps to go at the end, and the soft tyre takes very little time to actually warm up on this track, obviously because there's quite a lot of corners. As Bodden heads into pits now, he'll be putting on a set of the option tyre, the quicker of the 2 tyres. It'll be interesting to see the gap to Baxter in the background. Not quite sure where he is in terms of, yes, he's coming around the last corner now, so he'll definitely be going into the back into the race lead at the moment.
It's going to be close though as they come into turn 1, and no, actually you're right, Baxter takes the race lead and has actually gained quite a bit.
2-second gap. Yeah, 2-second gap roughly.
Yeah, I would say it's 2.7 as they cross the first sector split, as Knighton actually jumps Carpenter. So Carpenter, after doing all that work to get past, is now back behind Knighton. So those two are going to be battling once again, and Carpenter's just going to be so frustrated. You think he would have been the first person to come into the pits because to just get the undercut and gain some more time.
Yeah, I guess, but I think he saw Shepard there just slightly speeding into the pits, and it'll be interesting to see as he comes out of the pits. I think he actually was over the pit lane speed limit by maybe a few kilometers per hour, and he's, I think he's behind. Is that Sesmere?
Yeah, that's Sesmere. Max Shepard's currently in P8, but he's another drive-through penalty. So his day is going from bad to worse. I think that's the second or third drive-through penalty he's had. He got one for jumping the start and speeding in the pit lane, so he's sped in the pit lane again. It's definitely not going well for him today. Chadwick, though, you would expect him in the next couple of laps, especially if he's going to try and at least catch Knighton or Carpenter up ahead.
It's a bit of a risk, really, pitting. Depends if you want to stay out, but there's a Williams off track there. Is that Carpenter?
That's Carpenter off the track.
And yeah, Chadwick's up into 4th place, so I'm not sure what happened to Carpenter there, but he tried to make a move at turn 1. He's actually got past Chadwick with a really nice undercut, actually, but we need to see a replay of what happened to Carpenter. They just went off at the second last corner. He might have missed the braking zone or maybe broke on the curb or something, but we need to see a replay of that, I think.
I think he's had a trip into the gravel. You can see the gravel on the side pod of the car, so I wonder where he's went off, because there's not really many places where you can really go off and into the gravel on this track.
Yeah, I think he just went off the last corner. I think he was just rejoining the track as Chadwick went past. I think we're going to see a replay of it now. So he's heading through this loop now into the slight left kink here, and he's lost the car there. Yeah, he's gone into the gravel, and he just had a bit of a tank slapper. He was very lucky to actually not go into the wall. I think he just slammed the brakes on to just stop the car, and that allows Chadwick to go past, but costly mistake there, and I believe is that Shepard in for a stop-go instead of a drive-through.
Yeah, it's a stop-go penalty since he was over 10 kilometres over the speed limit, so I think that's a 10-second stop-and-go, so he'll be on his way. And he's lost the car, he's into the wall, and I think that might be his race all but over.
His engine's still running.
Yeah, his engine is still running, you're right, and he's actually going to try and continue, but he's got no front wing, so he's going to have to do an entire lap with no front wing, and his day's just going from bad to worse. It looks like he's got a new step nose design on the front of that car,
yeah,
but the two Ferraris
definitely trying new development front wing there, but he's going to have a very long trip back to the pit lane. That's going to cost him a hell of a lot of time. I'm not sure in the gap to 9th position behind, but yeah, he's going to have the long way right round to the pit lane. I think that's probably the worst place to actually have a crash, considering it's probably the most amount of time you've got to get around the track to really get back into the pits. But this battle between first and second is still going on with 6 laps left, and I think Bodden could still have a chance of taking the race win here.
Yeah, Bodden definitely lapping faster. He just almost set a qualifying lap time last lap around. He's absolutely flying. He went 6/10 faster than Baxter on the previous lap, but you can see Shepard at the side of the road with no front wing and a damaged car. I still wonder how he managed to lose the car coming out of the pits there. It just looked like he somehow got on the power and went sideways and straight into the tyre barrier.
I think that maybe the tyres maybe cooled in the stop-go penalty, because it's about 10 seconds, maybe, or he just got on the throttle a bit too early. I think it was probably just being on the throttle too early in first gear, and that just caused the throttle to spike and just went into the wall. It's just been an awful race for him, and just countless mistakes. But yeah, this battle between first and second is still going on. You can see the gap got even smaller between Baxter and Bodden under braking there. I think Bodden's going to have a really good run into the hairpin here. He could possibly make a move. He's definitely closing. Will he try to make a move? He's going to go to the outside, possibly get a cut back on Baxter. Baxter's stuck to the inside. He's going to go very slowly in the apex to block Bodden's pass, and he's just about managed to keep the position there, but Bodden is still sticking with Baxter here at this point in time.
Yeah, as we see the both drivers coming into Mercedes Grandstand, is Bodden going to try and go for an outbreaking move? He is. He's going to try and hold it round the outside, but Baxter just holding the inside line, and Bodden I think actually ran too deep in the end, and he just tried to outbrake himself really.
Yeah, he's definitely better at this point in time, as we've seen earlier in the race, on the brakes than Baxter. You see a Red Bull off there. I think that's
Nick Brackey. That's Nick Brackey running in the points. Yeah, he's had a spin.
He's had a spin coming out of the right-hander probably, so I don't think he's got race damage, but he definitely lost a lot of time there. But this battle between the top two, definitely it's probably the most heated battle on track at the moment. You saw the battle between Carpenter and Knighton earlier in the race, but that's just about ended after Carpenter made that really bad mistake in the last sector. This battle is still going on with only 4 laps to go. Will Bodden be able to make a move on Baxter?
Well, he's definitely close enough to make a move this time around on lap 30. 4 laps to go. Hopefully we can get a battle to the finish. Is Bodden, though, in the slipstream of Baxter? Is he able to get close enough to make a move? I think he will. He's opted to go for the outside line, braking just about 100 metre board. He's going to go for the cutback. He's going to get up the inside. As Baxter goes sideways, they make contact. But Bodden's going to have the position here. He's going to be leading towards the Mercedes grandstand section. Baxter now in P2 after that massive tag slapper. But Baxter's going to try and dive it down the inside. They almost make contact on the inside. Bodden going sideways, making contact once again. Baxter hanging around the outside. And now Bodden, though, he's going to have the run towards this right-hander. He goes for the inside line. Baxter hangs around the outside once again. Incredible racing from these two Ferraris.
Yeah, an incredibly close battle between these two. I think they were wheel banging actually a few times, but Bond's definitely going very aggressive in these last few laps. He's definitely not holding back like he's done in previous laps and previous races. But yeah, incredibly aggressive battle between these two. I think they just about avoided crashing into each other and taking each other out of the race. That would probably be the worst thing to happen at this point in time. They're looking for the maximum amount of points, 43 points in this race for the constructors. And with Williams having another bad performance, it looks like they've probably sealed the constructors at this point in time. But Bodden's going to have another go at Baxter at this point in time.
Yeah, Bodden on the back once again as they approach the hairpin for the 31st time of this Grand Prix. Bodden, is he close enough to make a move again? I think he is. He's going to opt to go to the outside, but Baxter later on the brakes this time around. Is Bodden, though, he's going to go for the cutback up the inside. They almost make contact once again. Bodden has the inside line, and he'll have the traction out of this corner, and he'll be leading towards the next corner. Is Baxter, though, going to try and stick it down the inside? He is once again. Bodden just doesn't seem to close the door there, and Baxter once again retakes the lead of this race. It seems like Bodden just needs to close the inside line into that corner, and he may have this race lead.
Yeah, he just needs to be more ruthless on his teammate. It's like he's giving him too much room, really.
Yeah, definitely does seem like he is giving him too much room. But Baxter, though, he's happy with that. He's going to take the first position once again with absolutely no complaints. These two drivers getting ever so close in the last sector once again. Is Bodden now onto the back. Only 3 tenths separate the two drivers as they cross the line to start the 32nd lap of this race. Knighton running in a lonely third at the moment, and Carpenter catching slowly but surely. I don't think he's got enough laps, and Gomez, you can see on the back of Chadwick, he's lapping very fast at the moment. And Chadwick, I don't think he's pitted yet, has he? I'm not quite sure if he's pitted yet. Gomez, though, he definitely has, and he's on a set of soft compound tyres, and he's going to be closing down lap by lap onto the back of Chadwick here, and hopefully he'll be able to show us a good race like we've seen with the two Ferrari drivers up front. Bodden, though, on the back of Baxter as they come into the hairpin once again. Is he close enough to make a move into the Mercedes grandstand section? Not quite. Seems to back out of that move there. He could have went for a move down the inside, but just thinks better of it, though. Bodden definitely the fastest driver of these two, setting the fastest lap of the race by a massive margin, but it just seems like he can't find his way past Baxter at this point.
Yeah, Bodden's just going to have to try something different. I'm not sure what he can really do, because Baxter's really putting up a sound defence here, I believe. But it's such a close battle between these two. Any mistake could really cost Baxter the win. But this time, he's not really made any mistakes during this race.
Nah, not really. He's definitely been on form here today. I think Bodden is actually the faster of the two drivers, like, on this race, especially in this last stint. He's been setting the timing screens alight, just faster than anyone by absolute miles. But it doesn't matter if you're fastest on one lap. You have to get in front and you have to make the move stick, and Bodden just hasn't been able to do that today. Gomez, though, closing the gap on Chadwick. He's only got 2 laps to get that move done as well, so it's going to be interesting to see if either of these drivers are going to be able to pull off an overtaking move with 2 laps remaining. As Bodden gets close to Baxter again, he's almost pushing him through the corner. That's one thing about Bodden's driving style. He seems to get really hard on the power really quickly. I don't know if you've noticed that. He gets hard on the power quickly and seems to get oversteer, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
I think in this case it's kind of affecting his pace at the moment, but you see it coming out of that hairpin. It's not really a place where you want to get the rear end sliding, because you just sort of lose traction. You don't really want that out of a really slow hairpin such as that. Maybe this corner here, you might want the rear sliding a little if that suits your driving style, but out of that hairpin it's really losing a bit of time. You can just see that the amount of traction he's not getting compared to Baxter, but he's still He's still closing a bit through that last sector despite the bad dirt air, and it's last lap now, so it's do or die now for Bowden as he tries to get past Baxter. But do you think he's going to do it in this last lap?
Well, he's going to have to pull off an even spectacular move than what we've seen before. Just look at how much he's gained under braking there. Almost 50 metres under braking. That's incredible. Late braking from Bowden, getting a bit loose though. Is he close enough to make a move? He definitely is. Close enough to get some slipstream effect, but I don't think he'll be close enough. Coming towards the hairpin, Baxter's done enough towards this corner. Bowden though, solely on the brakes. Impressive once again. Getting on the power, getting sideways, and he's sideways. Is he in the wall? I don't quite think so. He's in the grass, and I think all the time that he's managed to gain to make a move on this lap is all gone. Just getting too early on the power like we said, and I think the race win might be all but gone for him right now.
Yeah, he just lost too much time there just getting on the power, and he was so early on the power that he actually went onto the grass on the left hand side. But yep, Baxter is going to win this race. Bowden behind is not really a threat anymore after that small mistake which cost him a lot of time. He's going to come through to take a very, very good victory for him though.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to increase the gap he has in the championship even more. It's going to be his third race win of the season as Baxter crosses the line to win here in Germany. Bowden only good enough for second place after being the fastest car on track. Knighton in a lonely third position after an incredible battle with Carpenter at the beginning stages and the middle stages of the race. And I think Carpenter will be the driver. You see him there massively disappointed with himself after an error that cost him a position on the podium. Chadwick and Gomez, P5 and 6 respectively for them. Chadwick notably unhappy with that. After a mistake with the pit stops, he just decided to go much longer than what he should have really, and his tyre exploded. So first time we've seen that in this season. The two Red Bulls 8th and 9th as well. Decent result and decent points for them. It'll get them up past the Saubers maybe. And Davison MP10 last position in the points after a spin earlier on. And you can see Bernatsky P7 as well after a bit of a mistake and some contact with the Lotus driver. On to the race classification for the German Grand Prix. The two Ferraris lock out the front row of the grid. Baxter and then Bowden in second place. Good battle, but Baxter takes the victory here in Germany. Knighton with a great drive, gaining 5 positions up to the final place of the podium. Carpenter with a few small mistakes cost him dearly today and only good enough for 4th place. Chadwick, after a puncture earlier on, finishes 5th place. Juan Manuel Gomez not far behind in 6th. Sesmer Bernatsky in 7th, and then the two Red Bulls behind. Scott Davison the last person to score any points. Craig Baxter then extending his championship lead to 10 points ahead of his teammate Fred Bowden. Sam Carpenter starting to fall away a bit, quite a bit behind now in the championship. He's going to have to string together a few good results if he wants to get back up in that fight. Kieran Chadwick, after today's unfortunate race, only good enough for P4 in the championship right now, but Callum Knighton's catching him and Tom Martinez as well. Max Shepard, after DNFing today, he's not as high up as he would want to be. DeWald Nell not racing either today in P8 in the championship. Sesmer Bernatsky, then Juan Manuel Gomez. You can see Ferrari then 258 points, a long way ahead of Williams Mercedes. Mercedes though, they're closing up the gap to Williams after Matt Shepard's DNF. Force India as well, so that'll be an interesting battle for second in the constructors. McLaren, Honda, Manor and Lotus are all close together, as well as Toro Rosso, Red Bull and Sauber at the bottom half. Join us next time for round 8 of the Nebula rFactor Championship, where we'll be going around the classic Imola circuit for the San Marino Grand Prix. It will be 34 laps to that race as well. Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to tune in to the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.